all taxes are bad, but some are worse than others. What you want to do is collect the taxes, the requisite revenues you need in the least damaging fashion, period. And that means you look at the whole tax structure and consider, how would we do that? Now, given that all taxes are bad and hopefully all spending is good, what you want to do is when the damage done by the last dollar of taxes collected is a beep, 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 less than the benefit done by the last dollar spent, you stop already. That's where government should be. Any government larger than that's too large, but any government smaller than that's too small. You know, that's where you stop. But think of it in these broad terms. And you should never mix a spending program with a tax program. And let me, if I can, there are two types of incentives in this world, negative and positive. By way of illustration, if you beat a dog, you know where the dog won't be, but you have no idea where the dog will be. It's going to run like mad. Get out of here. All right? But you have no idea. If, on the other hand, you feed a dog, you know exactly where that dog will be at feeding time. It'll be right where you, right with you. So taxes tell you what not to do, and spending tells you what to do. Okay, two very different incentives there. You know, the hot stove tells you, don't put your hand on me. We don't care where your hand is, but just don't put it on the hot stove. Taxes tell you what not to do. Do not report taxable income. They don't tell you how not to report it: evasion, avoidance, underground economy, moving to a different state, or just going out of business. But they tell you don't report. So you never want to mix a positive with a negative. For example, a child tax credit should never be a child tax credit. You should use the tax codes to collect the requisite revenues and then write a check to the woman who has the child. Don't do it sneakily through the tax codes, because you'll find all sorts of distortions that will ruin the benefits of that. For example, there may be a single mother out there who doesn't file a tax return, and what does that tax credit do for her? What are the costs of going through it? So never mix positives inside negatives. Don't just collect your taxes, get the money in there, then decide how you want to spend it. That's the way you should do it, period. But when you take from someone who has a little bit more, you reduce that person's incentives to produce, and that person will produce a little bit less. When you give to someone who has a little bit less, you provide that person with an alternative source of income other than working, and that person too will produce a little bit less. The theorem here, and it's a theorem, it's math, it's nothing else but math. Whenever you redistribute income, you always reduce total income, period. Period. No, if you tax people who work and you pay people who don't work, do I need to say the next sentence to you? Please help me in that. Now, the limit function, and I wish Elizabeth Warren were here or Bernie Sanders were here tonight, because it's really important in that. If you were able to redistribute all income so that we all came out exactly the same, this is the limit function of redistribution. If we were able to do that, there will be no income whatsoever. Now let me describe it to you sort of more technically. In order to get everyone to come out equal, what you have to do is you have to tax everyone who makes above the average income 100% of the excess. And you have to subsidize everyone below the average income up to the average income. Only in this way can we be assured that everyone will come out exactly the same. Now, if you actually did that, if you actually taxed everyone above the average income 100% of the excess, and you actually subsidize everyone below the average income up to the average income, I'll stipulate today, Counselor, we will all come out equal at zero. There will be no income whatsoever. Economics incentives have consequences. Almost all revolutions are fought based upon changing the distribution of income. And no revolution in history has ever changed the distribution of income. But what they've all succeeded in doing is destroying the volume of income. And that's where I think you really want to look at this. And you know, there are all sorts of things that hit our hearts really massively on unfair, inequitable things, but that doesn't mean you know how to solve them. A problem without a solution is nothing different than a problem. I mean, that's just a problem. I'm a Kennedy Democrat from the 60s, but the solution is the best form of welfare is still a good, high-paying job.